This is Kyle McCord, and you're listening to Austin, Felix, and Matt on the Devy Debate.
Welcome to the Devy Debate. All right, boys. Are we ready to debate? Austin, you tweeted something, girl. You tweeted your running back rankings. Explain yourself.
Boy, that escalated quickly. I mean, that really got out of hand fast. Who jumped up and
That's Austin Nace.
Who is going to be that guy? And for me, Bijan Robinson is still going to be that guy.
Back to the ground with Robinson, who spins and then tries to bounce it. A stiff arm, another one as he rides it, keeps his balance. They're going to say he stepped out, but
I'm Felix Sharp. I know you didn't think that we would get through this episode without mentioning the name one Zach F. Wilson.
Screener draw. Oh, Wilson is going to uncork for the end zone, and he drops it in beautifully. And it is his roommate, Dax Milne, on the touchdown.
That's Matt Bruning.
G. Scott Jr. Obviously, I waxed poetic about him on the last episode, so I won't do that again here.
And this time it's Fields on the carry. Watch out! Justin Fields held Columbus 51 yards.
Bruning, are you ready to go head-to-head with me?
I am.
Got to get my popcorn out here. Hold on.
Got to continue. I got it. Kyle McCord is going to end up winning the job. He's going to be rated higher.
Well, I'm not nearly as passionate about what I'm about to talk about.
Our apologies because Herb Street ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. And for Matt Bruning and Austin Nace, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck. It's 9:30 Eastern time, the time zone that's getting jiggy with it. That means it's time for the Devy Debate, brought to you by CampusToCan.com. That's Matt Bruning. Austin Nace is out hunting endangered animals with Carlos Slim. But Chris Moxley is here, and I'm Felix Sharp on a bitch-slapped version of tonight's show. Let us on the bottom of a burger, Sean Tucker or Kenneth Walker, and who will win the Heisman in 2022 if it's not C.J. Stroud or Bryce Young. But we start with Florida quarterback Anthony Richardson, who has been a full participant in spring practice. Matthew, it's looking like he is going to have this job. What is his ceiling if healthy?
Yeah, I think after the reports that came out today, it's almost guaranteed it's going to be his job. I mean, they're only 7 practices into their 15, and the report today was that the gap between him and Jack Miller is pretty big. So the fact that they're already saying that 7 practices in, I think almost secures Richardson the job outside of any kind of injury. That being said, I don't really know. I was trying to think of what the name of the sea monster was, and I'm sure Moxley can tell me. Is it Cthulhu? How do you say it? It's not. It's not the Kraken. Cthulhu. There we go. We talked about this either on the after show or on the show with our good friend Austin about like if they unleash Anthony Richardson, that's what he could be. I think right now, if what you are looking at what he's done, again, small sample size, he got injured. We didn't get to see him a whole ton last year also because of Emory Jones. This season will be the one that really, I think, indicates what he's going to be. I see him as like a more explosive version of Jalen Hurts right now. Could he become better than that? Yes. My fear is, at least as far as I know, I don't remember Billy Napier having any kind of track record about developing quarterbacks. In fact, I think he prefers that his quarterbacks run a little bit, which means is Anthony Richardson going to develop more as a passer, which I think is his really only weakness. And it is coming out in practice as well. As they're talking, he stares down his receivers a little bit too much. He's very inconsistent in passing. The biggest thing about that is he'll make 3 or 4 really good throws in practice and then miss 5 straight. So the passing part of his game has got to catch up to how he is as an athlete and his rushing upside. If that happens, I think the ceiling is the roof, as Michael Jordan would say. But even if you say he's Jalen Hurts, that dude's a top 10 fantasy top 5 actually the past 2 seasons, or top 8 fantasy quarterback. And I think if Jalen Hurts got drafted and could play on a team, so can Anthony Richardson. So I think his stock is only rising. If he improves in passing, it's going to shoot up even higher than what it is now.
We don't even have to go to Jalen Hurts. We can stay with the same school and talk about Tim Tebow and him being a first-round draft pick and not being nearly the athlete that Anthony Richardson is. Solving Football has Anthony Richardson at 6'4", 237 pounds, timed at 21.7 miles per hour. Just for comparison, Jonathan Taylor last year in the NFL was one of the fastest players with a score of, I think it was 22.13. And he's not 6'4", 237 pounds. This dude is an absolute unit. And even if he doesn't, make strides in the passing game, he's got so many athletic traits. If he puts it all together and if he's healthy, I think he has the potential to be a first-round draft pick. Without starting last season, already has 2 150-plus yard rushing games under his belt. And he just presents problems for defenses. I mean, he's built like a fullback, built like a defensive end. He can outrun your secondary. It's not hyperbole to say that this guy is like Cam Newton around the goal line or in the rushing game. He's even faster than Cam Newton. We can just say that. He just has to get a little bit better. He just has to get a little bit better in the passing game. He has the arm strength. He can make all the throws, but can he make good decisions? Can he use his eyes to move safeties and linebackers off of their spot? That's really the question. But he could have 2 years to develop that. He hasn't started yet. He hasn't been a full-time starter, but he's dominated at times. Chris Moxley, what do you think about Anthony Richardson and his ceiling?
Well, his ceiling is incredible. I mean, I think there's a case that you could make that he's the best athlete in college football. If we're just looking at raw athleticism, like this dude is one of the freak athletes of our sport. And it's funny that you bring up the Jalen Hurts like comp, like a little souped up Jalen Hurts, right? Like Billy Napier is on that staff at Alabama in 2016 that coached Jalen Hurts, which was a superstar staff. It has like 5 head coaches in like premier roles now. Like that was one of the best staffs Saban's assembled. But Napier is familiar with like that type of player, and that might be the guy that he wants to have. So I would not be surprised in any capacity if he starts week 1. I do have questions the same way Matt does about his upside in the passing game because it has not been good. Like he has been a very underwhelming passer from a technical perspective. It's not a question of tools. All the tools are there. Everything we've seen of him is questionable. There's a reason he could not beat out Emory Jones last year. Like we could say all we want about the coaching situation. He could not beat out Emory Jones for games out of the season. And so like I am excited about him because I think he's a lot of potential, but right now it's all potential. I'm just a little nervous.
I mean, and you're giving me more reason to be nervous because you're comparing him to Jalen Hurts at Alabama, which was not a particularly dynamic player. And Billy Napier at UL, I don't know that Levi Lewis was that dynamic of a player. I mean, they rely heavily on the run game. But, I mean, Anthony Richardson is just a player that you have to draw up plays for. You have to adapt your offense to. So we're going to see if he's and he wasn't even supposed to be a full participant in camp after having surgery at the end of the season on his knee, and he is. So he's obviously ahead of schedule. Anything else, Matt?
You know what's going to really help him here? Florida's offensive line was already pretty good, but they brought in both Osiris Torrance and Cameron Waits from Louisiana. Like, I think it's going to be a really good offensive line, and that's a type of thing that really matters to a quarterback who's working on reading progressions and like developing the passing game. It's something that I think is going to be really, really beneficial to him. So I really like that Napier went out and addressed it this offseason through the transfer portal, brought in some guys from Louisiana. I think it's really important. And I think that's like a big win for him. He'll be able to feel comfortable in the pocket against SEC defenses. Like I really think they'll be good.
Felix, I want to ask you, because I know you were definitely the highest on him. He was one of your guys last year. You're a guy that you've been on him for a while now. So I know he did not start much last year, but week 7, 9, and 13 were the most that he really got passing wise, at least.
One of those was Georgia.
Yeah, Georgia, Florida State, LSU, for those of you who don't know the game. So 2 decent, or I mean, not horrible completion percentage games, 71% and 60%. Right now, he's sitting at 58, I believe, career. If he's able to jump that to 62%, and again, because Moxley and me are both saying, like, hey, like the passing part is what he needs to clearly improve on, but we continue to see him just absolutely dominate, as you said, as an athlete, everything Napier's able to develop plays from, goes out there, just smashes, even if it's 2 years in the SEC. Do you realistically think with that kind of passing completion percentage and everything? Because, I mean, I'm trying to pull up his yards really quick. I mean, what do you have last year? Well, 500. That's not really fair because, as you mentioned, he didn't. If you add in the rushing yards, he had fairly decent least yards overall. Say he passes for 2,000 yards, something like that. Does that get him first-round draft capital?
I mean, I'll just bring up Tim Tebow, which was probably shouldn't have been a first-round draft pick. We saw Lamar Jackson go at the end of the first round, and we saw Jalen Hurts go in the second round. And I think that if you had to do the draft over again, Jalen Hurts would probably be a late first-round draft pick if the draft had to be done all over again. Anthony Richardson is more exceptional of an athlete than any of those three that we know. He is an exceptional athlete. He could go to the NFL and probably be one of the best size-adjusted athletes.
So then
I just think that's going to be too hard for someone to pass up in the late first round. I mean, he could score 15, 20 touchdowns this year just on the ground. He could run for 1,200 yards on the ground this year.
So then let's say that he does that this year. Do you think he should come out this year? Because I feel like this is the weaker quarterback class. You've got Stroud, you've got Young, and then like we're talking about guys like Tyler Van Dyke, who, like, don't get me wrong, he did play good at the end of last year. But I think if you're talking about if Richardson goes out there and does what we're talking about him doing this year, they're likely going to take Richardson over Tyler Van Dyke because of what he can do as an athlete. Or if you go one more year removed, I think you've got a guy like Caleb Williams, who maybe not quite the athlete Anthony Richardson is, but I think better passer. You're going to have Quinn Ewers likely coming out, Jackson Dart. I know I'm forgetting names off the top of my head. Like, hey, if Dart goes out there and blows up with Ole Miss, like, I'm not saying he deserves to be in the category with those guys. If he goes out there and puts up the stats in the SEC, he's going to be highly touted. I mean, we got Kenny Pickett out here talked about being a first-round pick. Dude did it for 1 year against the ACC. Like, let's just be honest here. So if Dart goes out there and does it for 2 seasons in the SEC, like, he's going to be considered a first-round pick. You've got a lot of guys in the class.
I'm shaking my head at Quinn Ewers being a first-round pick after not throwing a pass in 3 years. But Anthony Richardson, I like reps at that position. I mean, it's something that Bill Parcells taught. You know, you had to start for a number of years. He has not been a first-year starter yet. I think he needs at least 2 strong seasons. One, to develop his passing ability, and then 2, to like become this, to reach his potential with his athleticism, where he takes over games. We haven't really seen that except for like against South Florida, where he got in and, you know, runs for a 70-yard touchdown and immediately tears his hamstring and is out for the next couple of games. So this is a player who needs a lot of development. He was described as raw coming out of Gainesville, and he's still raw, but he has it. He has. You mentioned, like, he has all the physical tools to be a passer. He just needs additional reps for that mental ability. All right. Chris Moxley, why don't you take us into housekeeping?
All right. We got a couple things to discuss this week. First is a website. If y'all have been under a rock, we launched on 3/14, brand new website with a whole bunch of new tools. Kept our current tools, obviously. Added college fantasy, added Devy, added ranks and ADP for each of those categories. And the key date that you need to look for is 4/1, which is Friday. We have a deal currently going on, which is we've released 3 different tiers of membership. If you sign up for the yearly walk-on, which is tier 1, you get access to our guide, and you get grandfathered into the scholarship tier, which is tier 2. This gives you access to all the tools, all the ADP, all the rankings, a $20 guide. It gets you everything except betting content and true NIL Discord content, which I think you should sign up for anyway. I mean, we're in there providing insight you're not getting anywhere else. The website has been awesome.
We need some more energy, Chris. I don't know if the people are respecting you. You gotta. I'm sorry. I don't know, man. I don't know if the people are respecting you with your housekeeping. You gotta come with it, Chris. I mean, the people need to know.
All right. Do you like money? Do you like winning money? Prize Picks has partnered with Campus Canton for so many different opportunities. You can get NBA, you can do baseball opening up in a week. You can do the Final Four if you really want to. You can do all of these things with a Prize Picks promo code using C2C. If you deposit up to $20, you can go up to $100. They will match. You get a membership at the site. Bing, bang, boom, and you get to win money. Very simple. You can leverage during college football season our rankings, our ADP. Some of the betting content that we're putting out has to do with Prize Picks. Now is the time to sign up with the promo code C2C. YouTube page. For the same period, you want to get in on this YouTube page. We are doing a drawing for a Kayshon Boutte jersey on 4/1.
Kayshon Boutte.
Yeah, signed Kayshon Boutte, not just a regular jersey, a signed Kayshon Boutte jersey. All you have to do is sign up and send a screenshot to either the Campus Canton Twitter account, or you can send it to Matt Bruning's personal account. I know he's keeping track of this, so you can flood his DMs. All you have to do is sign up for the YouTube page. That's it. Subscribe, like our content. Not very complicated. You can also win a free membership as well. So you could get entered to win a chance at a signed Kayshon Boutte jersey or a free yearly membership. Pretty good value for just shooting us a DM that you subscribed. The last thing, and it kind of goes in line with the likes and the subscriptions, and this is week 2 that I have called you out. You've been doing this a lot longer than this, but this is week 2 of freeloading. Rate and review the show. All us 3 are very disappointed parents that look down on you as you sit in your house without a job, eating Chinese food, not working during the day, smoking a whole bunch of hoo-ha, doing all this stuff, not paying rent, not contributing to the household, not paying for groceries. If you like this show, if you like Devy content, if you like Campus to Canton content, all you have to do is give us a rate and review. I actually did this for a show this week that I appreciate because I am not a freeloader like y'all are. It took me 3 minutes to do. Anywhere you can rate and review podcasts. I know y'all listen, and I know y'all got time on your hands because y'all are out here posting engagement farming tweets all the time on Twitter. Engagement farm our freaking rates and reviews, y'all.
Get in the website. If you are not a member of the website, become a member at campuscan.com. Just $29.99 for the walk-on tier. And tomorrow, just for our members in the Discord, we're going to be doing an all-22 film review of Kendall Milton. Last week we did Will Levis. This week we're going to take a look at Kendall Milton, trying to get some of these more controversial players to see what their strengths and weaknesses are. All right. There are 3 real ways to tell if a podcast is struggling for content. One is if they start the show with an article in The Athletic said X. That's one way. A second way is if they do a mock draft. And a third way is if they do a mailbag show. Well, today we came up with some questions because it is a slow content time. Just a grab bag of questions, and we'll take this one first. Matthew. Take C.J. Stroud and Bryce Young out of the picture. Who wins the Heisman Trophy and why?
You're really not going to like my answer, but since we're allowed to project on what Anthony Richardson can be, why can't I project Quinn Ewers winning the Big 12, taking Texas back to the playoffs, and possibly winning the Heisman? I mean, look, they've got a loaded roster, right? They've got Xavier Worthy, who broke out massively as a freshman last year with Casey Thompson as his quarterback, who, granted, played a lot better than I think Colin and myself wanted to give him. We thought it was going to be Hudson Card. Casey Thompson was able to get the best out of him. You got Isaiah Nayor, who's apparently blowing up. I think he added weight as well, has been just killing it at camp. And they've got 3 and 4 wide receivers in Whittington. And there's someone else off the top of my head I can't remember, who are actually doing well as well. They've They've brought in players on the offensive line to improve that offensive line to help protect Quinn Ewers. And then you've got Bijan Robinson behind him with Jadon Blue, and for the life of me, I cannot remember who the likely backup is going to be. He's not a horrible running back. He's not Bijan. He'll get reps.
Roshan Johnson?
Roshan Johnson. There we go. So then you add in Jaleel Billingsley at tight end. Like, they have a really good team. And if you go back and look at what Texas did last year, they were not blown out in any game. They lost so many games in the fourth quarter, and it was 1-score games, and that was just because some of that was on the defense, not necessarily the offense. But when the offense needed to answer, they couldn't do it. I think Quinn can do that for them. They're not going to beat Bama in week 2. But then outside of that, the hardest team on their schedule is an Oklahoma team who's also rebuilding and retooling. And if they can win that game, they likely win the Big 12. And you cannot tell me that a Texas team with their one loss being Alabama, who probably is going to go undefeated and make the playoffs, are not going to get into the playoffs. They will. And if that happens, again, we're taking CJ Stroud and Bryce Young out, who are likely one of those two is going to win it. So if we're taking those two out of it, then I'm going to take a guy who's taken his team to the playoffs for the first time since Vince Young won the national championship. I think he's got a realistic shot to do it. I just don't think Hudson Card's going to win the job. And I do believe in Ewers. I know you're more skeptical, but I believe in his talent and what he can be. And if he's able to put 80% of that together, Texas is going to be a good team this year.
I don't think that we've put this, and since we don't really have anywhere to go today, I'm just going to talk about this. I don't think that we've put this on record about my questions about Quinn Ewers, because I think it's Greg Biggins who wrote up his profile for 24/7 Sports and called him one of the best improvising quarterbacks that he's seen. Well, I'm like, I've watched the huddle tape. Like, he's one of the most well-protected quarterbacks that I've seen. I don't see the improvisation. I don't see him being a rushing threat. I see him throwing to wide-open players. And when you just when you compare him to a player like Drew Aller, which you see him improvising, you see him escaping pressure, you see him making anticipatory throws. When you look at Devin Brown, who might have the strongest arm in the class, let's not even go to Ty Simpson, who is essentially like a Bryce Young, Hudson Card type scrambler. I just don't see. You and Austin see it. A lot of y'all at the site see it. But we've had this conversation in text messages. I'm like, line for line, I will go through the report and say, where do you see this? Where do you see this guy escaping pressure and making all these throws? Because I just don't see it.
But then I sent you those throws, and you even agreed with me when I sent you those in the text messages, because we talked about it and I understand having questions about it. The one thing I will add about his huddle tape, and I posted this in our recruiting channel the other day. Obviously, we have nothing senior year because he reclassified. It goes to Ohio State, right? His junior season, he had a double groin injury. He was told to not leave the pocket. His doctors did not want him to play. He chose to come back and play because he thought that they could win a state championship in Texas. They told him, you cannot scramble. They told the coaches, if you cannot keep him in the pocket, he cannot play. That's on record now by the South Lake Carroll head coach, who said that on a 24/7 podcast just recently. So I think that's why you don't see that as much in his junior film. If you go back and look at his sophomore stuff, you see, and there was stuff before that injury happened, because I think it happened week 3 or 4. You see it on there, and that's why I sent you those videos. And again, it's not on his huddle, but if you go South Lake Carroll, I mean, down here is just as big as the Cowboys. You can find their full games on YouTube. You can find the plays where he does that stuff. It's not as often. I think some of that had to do with that groin injury his junior season.
All right. Chris Moxley, who do you have winning the Heisman if it's not Bryce Young or CJ Stroud?
Man, I hate to follow that up. I feel like I just got secondary.
He picked McCord last year to win the Heisman. It's just absolutely ridiculous. Somebody associated with the Ohio State program. Have
y'all seen the Quinn Ewers documentary?
What?
I did not even know there was one.
Yeah, Happy Feet. It's a Quinn Ewers documentary. He is terrible.
It's a great movie. Great. I heard it was a musical, so now I'm definitely not going to watch it because we know my feelings on musicals. So
yeah, he's terrible footwork. He's really raw prospect. I really like him, but there's a lot of questions. Mine is actually going to be a defensive player. I think Will Anderson breaks the mold.
God damn it, Chris Moxley. That's who I was going to pick.
Mine's been in the show sheet since you sent it to us 2 bits for the show.
Okay.
Well,
that's all about
Felix hasn't looked at it. Yeah. Felix read the intro and then he didn't look at anything else. So that's why he missed it.
No, I like Will Anderson. I think Will Anderson has what separates him from previous defensive contenders to win the Heisman is that he already has that name cachet, and he's on the best team in the country. Yep. Like Will Anderson, I think is categorically different than a lot of other Heisman hopefuls, and so I think there's a really good chance that he's in top 3 of voting. And I think they may have a little bit of fatigue with Bryce Young. I don't know if they'll do it twice. So give it to the second best player on the team, who's going to be the captain of defense, probably lead the nation in sacks again. Will Anderson Jr. is a dynamic player. I really like him. Defensive players just don't win very often. I think he can break the mold. I really like him. So he's also good value. He's plus 6,000 on DraftKings, and that's like the same price as like Spencer Rattler or something.
Okay.
He's really cheap. Like he's cheaper than Travion Henderson. He's cheaper than Bijan Robinson. Like he's a lot cheaper than he should be, in my opinion.
Do we get Heisman props on Prize Picks? I might need to look into that because that sounds like something I would want to take. Will Anderson is a dynamic player. In 2009, Mark Ingram stole the Heisman from Ndamukong Suh. He should have won it. Last year, I thought Aiden Hutchinson and Will Anderson should have been finalists, especially Aiden Hutchinson on the heels of that Ohio State game, absolutely dominating that game. So, mine was Will Anderson. I did not look at the show sheet. I mean, he's one of the three. He's one of the three best players in college football. So, and he doesn't even need to play next year to solidify his draft capital. All right. Top curveball question here. Matthew, you order a burger at a restaurant and it is served with lettuce, tomato, and onion on the bottom bun underneath the burger. Fair or foul?
I mean, I'm just going to say foul just because I don't get tomatoes or lettuce on my burgers anyways. Tomatoes, that's just like, it's usually wet
raw,
and it's
like
soaping.
A meat patty?
No, I get cheese, onions, ketchup, mustard. I'm very just a plain individual. Like, I don't need all that extra shit. But a lot of places down here in Texas put it on the bottom anyway. So I guess I don't really have any. Like, wouldn't want the onions on the bottom. I'd want the onions on the top of the burger. So I'll say foul.
I guess that's why we don't get along.
There's many other reasons, but that's probably just another one we can add to the list, I'm sure.
I mean, I'm being yelled at Austin in our group text message about some bylaws, but anyway, Chris Moxley, fair or foul? The veggies on the bottom bun.
No, that's ridiculous. I legitimately believe that if I was served that,
it's offensive.
Yeah, the first thing I would do is this: I would take it out, I would flip it, and then I would put it on top myself. That's the first thing I would do. The second thing I would do is never go back to that restaurant again. That is just that is the chef or whoever's preparing the food for me. That is them playing a joke on me, and I don't really appreciate it.
That's right.
It's offensive. It's seriously offensive. Like I appreciate the restaurant game and servers. Like it's a really tough job. It's a lot of long hours, really tough hours. But if you go and you serve me a sandwich, it doesn't even just have to be a burger. Any type of sandwich that has stuff on it, you put that under the meat, you got problems. I don't even write Yelp reviews, and I'll write a Yelp review. I'll say this place serves this. People are going to take notice of that. That is how you go out of business.
Matt, can you put that on the poll? Can you put that on the poll, please? I want to know what the customers say. Listen, when you bite into a burger, you're supposed to taste the veggies first.
Roof of your mouth.
Yes. And then go into the meat before you go into the bread again. That is the consistent bite. When it's on the bottom, you got these veggies on the bottom, on your bottom teeth. It makes no sense.
I don't like that at all. When you put that question on here, I was getting heated, man.
You're triggered.
Yeah, I was triggered.
Triggered. It's foul. It's foul. All right. Matthew.
Yes.
Or Chris, I'll go to you first since Matthew's putting that on the poll. Pick a running back or wide receiver outside of the top 10 rounds of our ADP who will be there next year.
Dang, I really wanted to pick a quarterback, and then I was like, oh, dang. It's only wide receiver. I had a few. I think Andre Green, the receiver at North Carolina, gets there. I think that he's the presumptive one moving forward. He's been pretty impressive, according to reports. Nobody seems to like him. He's going 192 in our ADP, and I have no idea why. He's still a 5-star wide receiver. Chris Marshall at Texas A&M. Like, I know there's a whole story that Jimbo can't develop any players, and maybe that's true, but I'm not taking a 5-star wide receiver outside of the top 10 rounds. I think his ADP is a little bit ridiculous. And I know we're not talking quarterbacks, but I feel like if I didn't say it, it would be remiss. Why is Ty Simpson, a 5-star quarterback, going to the best program in the country that has developed first-round quarterbacks for the last decade, going outside the top 10 in our ADP? What are y'all doing? Man, that's
who
ridiculous.
Also has rushing upside.
Yeah, he's going to go 10 rounds higher than he's going right now. Like he's going to be a top 3-round pick in 2023. It's like his ADP is offensive.
Matt.
I was trying to find a running back that I really like, and there isn't one. I'll give Austin a shout out. If Lorenzo Styles Jr. at Notre Dame does what he says he's going to do, he's clearly going to jump up. He's going as wide receiver where'd it go? 35 off the board, 116. Talon Cetron, freshman at Oklahoma State, is absolutely dominating in camp from everything I've been reading. They're just saying like his size is ridiculous. It's a complete just factor for him in dominating in the red zone, and Spencer Sanders and him have been connecting a lot. And then Keon Grays and DJ Allen, never mind. Grays might just on us alone, like Austin pumping him up, because we know Austin has a huge effect on ADP. He's just outside the top 10 rounds right now. Obviously, he's probably not going to do much this year. And then DJ Allen, like I seriously doubt that there's no way he doesn't do something decent this year in that TCU offense, whether it's as a receiver, if they use him all over the field, and then being in TCU's offense with Quentin Johnston gone now, likely after the season, if he goes out and blows up the way we all think he's going to again. I think DJ Allen clearly jumps up there as well. Those are guys all outside the top 10 rounds I think could easily jump up into the top 10.
I was just trying to check this player and see if he was in the top 10 or not, but it's Iowa running back Gavin Williams. I think that collectively we have him. He's not in the top 10 rounds.
I'm going to look. I don't know that he's even being drafted. I'll look really quick.
There's no way he is. No way.
Yeah.
I have him ranked in the top. I had him at 17, but I think I moved some guys around, and he's in the top 20. I think collectively as a site, we have him. You guys have him ranked like in the 150s. This is a player who's going to take over for Tyler Goodson. And then there is, I can't remember the other Williams running back there, but that running back is much, much smaller. Gavin Williams is 215 pounds, has the requisite size, has some burst. And I just think that he's a good player. So I've got Gavin Williams ranked definitely in the top 25 of my running backs. And I think that next season, this will be his third year. I think that next year he will be definitely a consensus top 10 round running back. I mean, I think he'll be a top 25 running back next year. So Gavin Williams, that's it for me.
Yeah, he has not currently been drafted at all. He has no ADP with us. So that.
Okay. Yeah, no.
Yeah,
ADP.
I got it.
I've got him in the top 25.
Has he been drafted in any CFF drafts?
I don't know. No, he didn't pop up on the ADP sheet at all.
Wow.
So, not at
Look
all.
at me. Shoot from deep, baby. Shoot from deep. Gavin Williams. That'll be one of my guys this year. All right.
Well, I mean, we saw how well my guys worked out for you last year, right, Chris Moxley?
Anthony Richardson.
1 of 4.
I think I did better than any of you did.
That's completely
as
false.
far as value.
Austin and myself did much better than you did. Anyways,
Austin
next
had
question.
Jaden Wally. Who else?
I mean, he had not a horrible season. I don't remember. I sent you the picture. I don't remember.
I can't remember either. We'll move on here. We can come back to that in the after show. All right, our next set of questions here is we're going to take a look at the 2022 draft class and then compare to some guys in college and ask if we would have the 2022 NFL rookie or the collegiate guy, all right? Chris Moxley, I will throw this one to you first. Drake London, projected first-round NFL draft pick, or Jordan Addison?
I'm not even a big Drake London fan. You know, I have a couple questions about separation, even though it's been mocked on Twitter. Like, I don't think I think he's like an average separator, maybe good enough, but he's still he's still probably gonna be a top 10 pick, probably top 15 pick. I don't really know what I'm gonna get out of Jordan Addison this year. It's really hard to fade a guy who was productive early. He hit a bunch of the benchmarks that we're looking for in terms of yards per deep pass attempt, weighted dominator, and is going to be top 15 selection and has size. Like, it's really hard for me to fade Drake London, even if I'm not his biggest fan. So I'm in the London camp on this one. And I like Addison too. I like the certainty of what I'm getting with London currently.
Matthew?
Yeah. Not to peel the curtain back too much, but this was probably the one I struggled with the most out of all the ones you put on here, because I like Addison as well. We just did his Devy profile, and I kind of forgot, like, because he's been so good, I kind of forgot how good he was when I was looking into him. But it's London for me. Like, I do think that he is a much better separator than he gets credit for. Maybe not off the line, but he's very much like when Jamar Chase separates at the catch point, and London does that a lot. I also think Slovis hurt him a lot with the way he did not get him the ball when he did get open. A lot of stuff that was misthrown or poorly thrown in poor locations behind London, and yet he was always able to adjust to that. And I agree with Moxley. Like, all these people who are plugged into the NFL are plugging him in top 10, 15 picks. Like, as much as I love Addison, I don't know that he goes that high next year. So London's going to have that baked into his capital already. He's got the size. He's a better athlete than I think we give him credit for. I'm going to go London, but it was close. Like, I waffled on this one for a while.
Yeah, this is the problem with in this question for me is that this is players of two different play styles, and it's Jordan Addison's play style that I feel more comfortable projecting to the NFL. Drake London, very much he has to have the right mesh with a quarterback who's going to throw it up and not necessarily need to see space between he and the cornerback. And Jordan Addison is someone who can run after the catch. I think he's going to create separation. But the value of these two players right now is probably on the Drake London side. I don't know if we were in a vacuum and they were coming out at the same time. I think I would pick Jordan Addison just because I feel more comfortable projecting that play style to the NFL. I mean, the NFL definitely fading these bigger wide receivers.
Update really quick. I just got to do this. Maybe I worded this question poorly, but have you seen the poll? Fair is winning. Veggies on the bottom of your burger. Fair is winning.
I saw how you worded
Only
it.
8 votes in. Did I word it poorly? I'm sorry. I was like trying to.
I mean, that's all right. Can you put all of these on? I'm sitting here trying to produce the show and put these.
I'll put them as
I'll post the Drake London one.
Okay.
Was he leading? Was Matt leading the witness with the post?
I feel like I've got to read the way he.
I said foul though. I agreed with you guys. I just said I don't put tomatoes on. I don't get tomatoes on my burger, but I said foul.
He tweeted
fair foul. And veggies on your burger came on the bottom of your burger.
Yeah. Okay, that's fair. All right. All right. Matthew, Treylon Burks or Kayshon Boutte?
It's Boutte. I know the rumors about the Achilles tendon injury are not great. Obviously, you'd like to see him come back this year and produce at any form to kind of, make those fears go away. But Treylon Burks is so raw going into the NFL. I feel like you're going to have to hope whatever coaching staff and team he goes to helps develop him. Shut up, Austin. Nobody's talking to you. Go back to hunting your whatever you were doing. Endangered animals. I forgot what I was talking about. Thanks a lot, Austin. Oh, Boutte. Boutte's already, to me, proven to be more of a technically sound wide receiver than Burks has. Like, as long as he goes out on the field this year and does something, I think he's like a top 5, top 10 pick. I don't know that Burks gets drafted in the first round this year with the way NFL teams seem to be falling on him. So give me Boutte all day long.
Chris?
This was the toughest one for me, actually, because I really like both of these players. If you had asked me this like a week and a half ago, I would have been very much Boutte. The stuff that came out in the last week, Brian Kelly having that really bizarre press conference where he's like, I know his last name. He needs to attend his classes. He needs to get healthy. He's still in a walking boot. There's like a really bizarre press conference about Kayshon Boutte, which threw a little doubt on him, in my opinion. I am still going to pick Boutte because the NFL rumors about Burks aren't great currently. Like, the industry seems to be pretty down on him. And I do agree that if Boutte does literally anything this year, he's probably a top 10 pick because of how impressive his freshman season was. He's a really good wide receiver. I don't want to discount him, even with all those questions that we have surrounding his profile currently, which I think are legitimate questions. Like, I'm ready to move Jackson Smith and Jigba above him in Devy. Like, I've already made that choice, but I still really like Boutte.
Yeah. This is another thing where the players are very different. Treylon Burks has been described as a gadget guy, but he's a 220-pound gadget guy who can run 22 miles per hour. I mean, and he has big hands. It's hard because I think last year I started with Burks as my wide receiver 1, and then Boutte was number 2. And so you're really asking me between the last 2 classes, my wide receiver 1. And we're splitting hairs here, man. It's probably landing spot dependent. I think I have to – this is the thing. As good as we think Kayshon Boutte is, that dude is like a 4.55 40 guy. He is not a 4.4 40 guy. He's someone who's I don't even think has hit 21 miles an hour. He's in the 20 range. And big wide receiver guy, if you're watching, you can correct me on that one, but I think that's right. So I'm going to go with the more athletic guy who's been, thrown about not being a true X, but I still like his size and his potential, and I think that he could develop into that. Chris Moxley, Breece Hall, or one Bijan Robinson.
It's Bijan. And I think Breece Hall's a top 5, 6 Devy running back as we sit right now. Dynasty running back as we sit right now. He'll get there by the time that the season turns around. Bijan is different, man. Bijan is Saquon Barkley-esque of he steps into your dynasty team and he is like the one-on-one immediately. Yeah, that's how I think Bijan's going to end up. So I still think Bijan, and if it's a Devy, maybe it's a little bit closer, but in a Campus Canton league, I mean, you're still getting a full season of Bijan production, which is going to help you win that side of the league. So
which might even be more
CBC league.
Yeah, it might even be more valuable than whatever Breece Hall puts up in the NFL this year.
It absolutely will be.
Yeah. Big wide receiver guy says he has Keyshawn Boutte at 21.2, so he does have he's over that 21 mile an hour threshold. But Traylon Burks at 22.6, so I think that's faster than the track time we have for Jonathan Taylor last season.
I'm also pretty sure, and Salvi Football may be the one who posted this, but Traylon Burks' time is the fastest in college and NFL in the last 2 years, 3 years. That 22 point. I saw it at 22.8 at one point. That's
even
really fast.
Even faster than that DK Metcalf chase down. That's like the
faster than Metcalf, faster than Tyreek Hill. I think he has the fastest time recorded, maybe a little bit faster than Raheem Mostert. This dude has speed.
It would be Breece Hall for me, though. By the way, too.
You're always
Bijan. Bijan, not Breece Hall. Bijan.
So you flipped because Breece Hall was your guy.
Last year, yes, because as I mentioned, I was all in on winning the college side, and my biggest thing with RBs is I do prefer to get them into the NFL sooner. But as I've said before, Bijan and Travion are the only two running backs I've seen recently that I think have first-round draft capital. I know all the talk about Breece Hall with what he did at the Combine might shoot him up there. I doubt that. I don't see any way he goes in the first round. Bijan, I think, has a chance to do that next year, and he's just he is special with what he can do. Breece Hall, I think, could be a top 12 fantasy running back at the NFL, 1 or 2 seasons. Bijan, I think, is going to be locked in there for multiple seasons.
Yeah.
All the polls are up, by the way. They're all on one thread.
Cool. I'm right there with you on Bijan. Let's go a little bit quicker with these. I'll take this one first. Jahmyr Gibbs or Breece Hall? Jahmyr Gibbs is my RB1. I just think that I know that there's a question about his BMI and being over 200 pounds. I just think that the way that he can be used in the passing game is different. And we haven't seen a back to be used similarly since Christian McCaffrey. And I don't know that Christian McCaffrey catches a lot of balls out of the backfield. I think that Bijan Robinson could play slot receiver in the NFL. I think that he is that good. So I'm going to go Jahmyr. This might end up being silly. This might end up looking silly, but I'm going to go Jahmyr. But I've always had Jahmyr Gibbs ranked above Breece Hall. So even last year. So Chris Moxley, who you got between those two?
I'm also going to go Jahmyr Gibbs because I think his upside is just fantastic, and he's going to be at Alabama.
He could catch 100 balls, and this is a player who could legitimately catch 100 passes in the NFL.
He could enter the NFL at, I guess Kamara and McCaffrey will probably still be there. Top 3 receiving back, top 4 receiving back, Eckler, McCaffrey, Kamara. He's right there in that elite tier immediately. He could play the Austin Eckler role of get 15 touches a game and just still be an RB1. That is how good and dynamic he is. The reports out of camp for Jahmyr Gibbs are phenomenal. He's embarrassing a defense that was just in the national title game. Jahmyr Gibbs is a fantastic player. I'm really excited about him.
Yeah, I feel like this was a lot closer for me than it was you two. My biggest fear with Gibbs is that he apparently came in weighed under 200 for Alabama. We don't see a lot of those guys get shots at the NFL. I agree he could be Eckler, he could be Kamara, but you're also those guys are special and they're unicorns, and you can't just say that about everybody. Not that Gibbs isn't, and I do think he's got to go to the right offense in the NFL if that's what he's going to be, to use him that way, like the Chargers do Eckler and the Saints do Kamara, because he could also end up being like Nyheim Hines, who only had that one good season when Indy used him that way. So I'm actually going to take Breece Hall because I tend to go a little bit safer with some of my stuff, and I think Breece Hall is going to produce in the rushing and receiving side as well in the NFL, and he's got the adjusted size and speed, so I'm good with Hall there.
All right, Matthew. Well, then here, pick between your two loves, TreVeyon Henderson or Breece Hall.
TreVeyon Henderson. You don't even have to finish it. You could say TreVeyon Henderson or Archie Griffin, TreVeyon Henderson. Next question.
Mox?
Yeah, it's TreVeyon. I mean, I think TreVeyon's the second best running back in college football right now. So
all right, let's throw some little cold water on this TreVeyon Henderson thing. This is a guy who has some elite speed, but a lot of the holes that you saw him run through were wide open holes. I mean, I don't know how much tackle breaking ability that you saw from him, other than being able to just outrun defenders and defeat their angles. But I don't know that you saw like raw, just Herculean tackle breaking ability from TreVeyon Henderson. That's my only thing. That's why I just wanted to know who you would have. But everybody is saying Breece Hall, TreVeyon Henderson. I'm saying TreVeyon Henderson too. All right, here we go. Two teammates, Matthew.
Just so you know, he had 50 missed tackles last year, which was top 20 in college. So just throwing that out.
I mean,
there.
I wasn't looking at the statistics. Listen, you know where I got my statistics?
Right here?
Right here. From my
eyeballs? Those eyeballs, I got you.
From my gut. I'm thinking back of Stephen Colbert doing the White House Correspondents' Dinner, one of the funniest 30 minutes that you'll ever see on television. Where to get these facts? You read them in a book. I got them from my gut. All right. Let's see. Teammates, Matthew. Garrett Wilson or Jackson Smith-Njigba? Spelled correctly for Austin.
It's JSN. I know. I'm almost positive Austin said this as well. Like, I think he was the best wide receiver there last year. He's gonna go out there and smash this year. Like, I love Garrett Wilson, but everything JSN can do after the catch and where they can line him up all over the field, I'm taking JSN.
I'm shaking my head because it's Garrett Wilson for me. Garrett Wilson is a different type of player. I've said this before, the quick twitch separator, that's what Garrett Wilson is. I think Garrett Wilson is going to play in the NFL for 15 years. He's Amari Cooper. And I love Omar, like the route runner Amari Cooper. I love that type of player. And I think that it's Garrett Wilson for me. And he can play outside. You can move him outside, you can move him inside. Jackson Smith-Njigba is very much a slot receiver. So give me Garrett Wilson.
I have JSN, and I think JSN can play outside this year. I don't think it's a foregone conclusion that he's going to stick in the slot. Remember the same conversations that we're having about Garrett Wilson is the only slot type a year ago? I think it's probably – I think he can play outside. I don't know if he will, but I think he could.
All right. Rapid fire here. Chris Moxley, Jacob Cowing, or Sky Moore?
Easily Sky Moore. If Jacob Cowing was as good as Sky Moore, he would have declared this year.
Give me Jacob Cowing. Matthew?
I actually agree with Moxley, and 80 snaps on the outside for JSN. But give me Scott Moore.
Matthew, Sean Tucker or Kenneth Walker?
Sean Tucker. And that hurts because I love Kenneth Walker. Sean Tucker.
He's a good athlete. I just wish he was a little bit bigger, but he's a better athlete than Walker is, or at least he appears to be. Matthew, Sean Tucker or Isaiah Spiller?
Sean Tucker.
Whew, man, the precipitous fall it has been for Isaiah Spiller.
Hey,
Chris Moxley.
While you were out on Breece Hall last year, I was out on Isaiah Spiller.
I was out on Isaiah Spiller after
I know
we did
you
the.
were. I know. I brought up what you said on the Nerds. Yeah, I brought up what you said on the Nerds Room, and I agreed with you. I was one of those guys who was out on Spiller last year.
All right, Chris Moxley, Sean Tucker or Kenneth Walker?
Kenneth Walker. It's really tough for me to trust Sean Tucker getting the same draft capital that I think Walker will this year. And I don't even like Kenneth Walker that much. I just don't trust that he's going to be a second round pick the way I think Walker will.
Same
that
question,
matters a
Isaiah.
lot for running backs.
It does matter a lot. He has to be very, very athletic, and he has to start showing the ability to catch the ball if he's going to be productive in fantasy at that size. Sean Tucker, Isaiah Spiller.
Tucker, because I think Spiller might be dust.
Doesn't it feel like Isaiah Spiller might fall to like round 5 or something like that? Like we might see him.
I do not have a good feeling.
I don't think he falls out of the 3rd round.
I think he's going to go round 3 too.
Yeah, with this class, like I think Hall and Walker clearly jumped him now, but I think he still goes round 3.
All right, Matthew, Malik Willis, or Jackson Dart?
Dart. Willis just has so much he needs to improve. I love the upside with his legs. Passing wise, like I'm in on Dart.
Moxley?
No, I'm going to go with the guy who's going to be a top 6 pick in the NFL draft versus a guy who's like
who hasn't played a whole season. Right, I know.
Hasn't played a whole season. And it was average when he played and has like one good game against Arizona on his resume and maybe like a half a quarter against UCLA. That's great. Like, that's crazy to me.
When he's a top 5 draft pick in 2 years, I get to do my whole shoot from deep, just like Felix does all the time. Then
no, you don't get to shoot from deep with players who are consensus like top 10.
He's not consensus
recruits,
apparently.
But yeah, I got to go with Malik Willis too. I like Jackson Dart's tools, and I like the offense that he's in. But I mean, we haven't seen him play yet. So, all right, I like this one. Chris Moxley. Come on now. Kenny Pickett or Tyler Van Dyke? This is the last one.
I actually think Kenny Pickett is not a good quarterback. And I think Van Dyke actually could be or is.
Might be.
So Van Dyke. And I feel like I'm the only person in the world that isn't that worried about Josh Gaddis either. Like I think Van Dyke's could be fine this year.
Well, Matthews kind of quelled some of my fears there because he's saying that he's throwing the ball deep down the field to wide receivers in spring camp, which is what he did last year. So, Matthew, are you on Tyler Van Dyke over Kenny Pickett?
Yeah, I mean, I've been all in on these guys who haven't shown us anything, and I'm projecting upside like I did with Quinn Ewers, like I did with Dart. Like Van Dyke looked decent for that second half of the season. We're going to get to see him play this year. Kenny Pickett, I graded out as my lowest quarterback out of all the quarterbacks in this class. I'm just not in on him. I think Tyler Van Dyke has a shot to impress this year, so I'm taking Van Dyke.
All right. For those who have been paying attention to us, we always had an after show in an effort to kind of develop our bench of on-air talent at Campus to Canton. We've been starting to hand the after show to Mike Valerie. It's now the off-mic after show. So, Mike, what do you got going for us on the after show today?
Yeah, what's up, pledges? We're taking the shit back to college. Okay. We're going to have CFF Jared on, and we're going to talk about CFF and college football, all right?
All right. So, do you have anything that you want to get on us about during the main show, or are we good?
We can just talk about that later.
Okay. All right. So stick around for the after show. Check out the website, Dynasty RB Stock Watch by Matthew Fox. Our own Matthew Bruning recaps the Elite 11 Dallas Regional, how to approach the middle rounds of a C2C draft by Chris Moxley. And then, of course, the Campus to Canton feed. Monday, you've got Chasing the Natty, a CFF podcast. We're going to hear from Jared a little bit later here. Tuesday, Campus Life. Wednesday, the Devy Debate. Thursday, Canton Bound. Also, Thursday, the official on the YouTube channel. We had special guest Alan True of 24/7 Sports is going to be on that show tomorrow. Friday, future freshman Brandon Sanders talks about relevant freshmen, including the segment I love on that show is the Big Fish Small Pond, which is really a name to look at in CFF. A good recruit in kind of in a smaller school. And then, of course, daily we have the daily draft report. And Matthew on the weekends has been uploading all of the spring practice recaps. I mean, I think the only day that we don't have some content out is Sunday. And we'll probably figure out how to get some sort of podcast going.
Coast to coast and tailgate during the season, baby.
Coast to coast and tailgate during the season. Ooh. I'm going to have to get some coffee. All right, that's going to be our show for tonight. Apologies to Kirk Herbstreit. We ran out of time. We'll get him rescheduled soon. For Matt Bruning and Chris Moxley, I'm Felix Sharp. Good night and good luck.
All right, where's my guest? Is he like in the shoot?
My bad. I mean,
there I am.
Give you more control.
All right. Well, I want to welcome in at CFF Jared or CFF_Jared, our regional CFF guy. Jared, please tell us more about yourself. That was a horrible intro. Just do it yourself, please.
Well, you got me right in the middle of taking a drink. Alrighty. My name is Jared Palmgren. You guys have probably heard me around here as the host of the Chase and Natty podcast. Felix introduced it there at the end of the Devy Debate podcast. See if Felix gets my name right this week.
I don't understand how I pronounced it wrong.
I
just listened to you say it, and I'm like, that's what I said.
You do what a lot of people do, and you're not the only one. I'll tell you this: you're not the only one. You add like a random in the middle of it. So like you say like it's just palm and grin. So palm grin, but then you add a random in the middle of it. So like you go say like Jared Palmgren.
I feel like I heard a random when I heard you pronounce it, to be honest.
But you have a random when you say it. That's what I'm saying. But even so, like I'm host of Chase and Natty podcast. Every Monday morning, we have one episode out for you guys. We have this past couple of weeks, we have been doing the ranking summits. Chris Moxley joined me for that. Those went off without a hitch. Those were awesome. You guys really seem to enjoy that, so I really appreciate it. And Felix, you hurt my feelings a little bit when you're like, "Oh, we don't have any content on Sundays," and when I've been putting out those summits the last 2 Sundays.
Oh, that's true. I was thinking of podcast content. I've actually watched those summits right on my big television. I put it on the television.
Ooh, I consider that a high honor. So yeah, that's pretty much my intro.
All right, Jared. So, what is CFF? What does that stand for? Does that stand for Kappa Frappa Fiji, or what fraternity is that? I'm trying to rush it.
You probably couldn't catch me dead in a fraternity.
Well, you're in.
No, I mean, fair enough. This is about as close to fraternity as I'll ever get. CFF, college fantasy football. It's basically just imagine your C2C leagues, but you just take off only the college side of it, and you like there's redraft, there's dynasty, there's best ball, pretty much all the same things you could find for the NFL. But you just make it with college players.
All right, that's cool. Also, shout out to you for getting on the late kick. What's it called? The late kick podcast or whatever.
Well, it's the late kick extra, so it's like
late
it's podcast only. Podcast only stuff. But then he actually did a whole video around the question that I was involved in. So
yeah, I watched the whole thing.
On the actual show.
I thought that shit was so cool. I really did. I was like, this is great. That was cool. You inspired me. I was like, dude, we're getting out there. I got to start messaging people above my weight belt too. Didn't work out for me though, but
we got to shoot your shot though.
Absolutely.
Got to shoot your shot. Now I actually did want to ask you some questions here for CFF purposes because you can't really be a Devy asset if you're not a college asset. You know, I mean, there's some apples and oranges there, but you can't produce in the NFL if you don't produce in college. So Ole Miss used to be a wide receiver factory for like a short little bit there. There's no wide receivers on that roster I really care about. And like, am I right or am I wrong? I know there's Jonathan Mingo, but Jonathan Mingo seems to disappoint me every single time he gets a chance to.
So in terms of the actual wide receivers for Devy purposes, there's none that really kind of stick out to me as like, oh, this is like your next guy to watch. Jordan Watkins maybe coming over from Louisville. That might be somebody you're kind of looking for there. I'm praying a little bit because I have him on my dynasty team for CFF. But really with Ole Miss for this year, and again, I'm really starting to bang this drum just more and more because I feel like people keep disrespecting him. The receiving option you need to be looking for in Ole Miss is going to be Michael Trigg, their tight end, this upcoming year, because I think that Lane Kiffin's about to utilize him.
Yeah, I agree with you. We just lost him. Is everyone else still alive there? All right, we got some movement. Okay.
Yeah, he froze. I think everybody else is good.
That's hilarious.
Yes. CFF Nate, if you're listening, that Michael Trigg shot was at you, Nate Marquise. We had to call him out for being low on Michael Trigg. If you were watching our summits, you could replay them on YouTube, by the way. They're like probably an hour and a half, 2 hours of like really good CFF discussion. One of those was surrounding Michael Trigg. And
it's good content, and it's perfect for a Sunday when all there's on is college basketball, which I do not watch. So
we're back.
Really good content.
Also, Jared, I have to give you a heads up. That wasn't me that disconnected you, but
no, that was my internet. I was something weird's going on over here tonight.
So. I got you, but in case no one's ever told you, you're very long-winded. I do have you on a timer, and I will let you know when you go too long.
Okay, sounds good.
All right.
So yeah, Michael Trigg, he's a receiving option to look out for this year.
All right, I got to ask you another one. Next school for me is Memphis. Sorry, I forgot Memphis. Thinking about Seth Hennigan the whole time. I'm not a big Calvin Austin fan, but Memphis seems to put some interesting talent in the draft here and there. And I just don't know who to look at Memphis this year at all.
Javon Ivory. That's the name we're looking at there. Yeah, Chris is really pumping me up tonight. Like me and Chris are on the same page.
Yeah,
with
these are all my guys.
Give me the size, and is he an early declare? That's like the next two questions.
I don't imagine he's an early declare, considering that pretty much I first noticed him when he was a freshman, like during the bowl game. That was when I first caught my eye. But then Calvin Austin just came back for another year, so he wasn't able to break out. And then will he be an early declare? Not entirely sure, and I don't remember what his size is. Give me 1 second; I can look it up for you.
I don't think he's very big. I think he's like 5'11" or 6 foot.
Yeah, about the weight, the weight class.
6'2", 180 pounds.
Oh shit!
Oh, not bad, not bad. Okay, well, you gotta subtract 2 inches because you know how these guys lie. So still okay. I'm a little on board. I don't really care when they're late declares as much unless they get the draft capital, but you know how it goes.
Oh yeah.
The next one is for me. I gotta pull up my notes. I'm so sorry. It's on a whole nother tab. I got a new laptop. I'm very disorganized. Texas Tech. Right. So we got WKU staff going there, and we love that for CFF purposes.
Absolutely.
And besides, who's the slot guy there? That's like the man. Is it Price?
Miles Price. Yeah.
Thank you. Is there anybody else there in the near future, like one of the freshmen that are big screaming buys right now?
I'll be real. I haven't dived too much into the Texas Tech Raiders behind Price. Let me see if I can pull up their roster real quick. See if any names kind of ring a bell. Once again, I'm kind of looking at the tight ends there a little bit. Travis Kuntz or Mason Tharp, but either one of those guys I'm kind of taking a look at there. JJ Sparkman is another one that I know Moxley has kind of put out there every once in a while, so I definitely need to take a bigger look at him, but I'd say he's another name to kind of write down. And then Jerand Bradley, I think, is the other one that Mox has thrown out there a couple of times for me. So I definitely need to dive deeper into this receiving room, but Price is the guy to get this year.
Okay. So also, how'd you get it? How'd you find your way into the college fantasy football world? What drove you to get there?
I've always liked college better than NFL. And so I wanted to get but I knew a lot of people who played fantasy, and I'm just like, well, I don't like NFL as much. I don't pay attention as much, but I do pay attention to college. So is there a college option out there? And so that's when I found Fantrax. That's when me and my roommates, we set up a very small league, and we just started playing every year. And then at one point, me and my roommate Xavier, we were talking about this stuff just in the middle of February, like well after the season had ended, but well before we were even really starting to consider it for the next year. And then we're just like, what if we just started recording our conversations about this? And that's where Chasing Natty came from.
Nice. One more school for you, because I'm actually a big fan of Will Rogers. Like, I think he could have some NFL value. I'm not really sure exactly how much value, but I think he's draftable at this point, one of the 7 rounds. But it doesn't ever seem like they have ever a standout. We had Austin pump up Jaden Wally's value. Jaden Wally didn't seem too special to me at this point in time. Is there anyone that they have a lot of talent on that roster, but is there anyone on that roster that you I don't know?
That's kind of the problem with Mike Leach's offense is it's very difficult to predict who is going to be the guy. Because again, I was with Austin last year. Like Jaden Wally was the guy I was drafting. There was no reason not to believe that he was not going to be that next guy up. But then Mekhi Polk just kind of comes out of nowhere. Jaden Wally gets injured, doesn't do very well in the first couple of games. All of a sudden, he's kind of, I don't want to say in the doghouse, but like he's clearly not the guy anymore. So it's a little difficult to predict who he's going to be. In terms of the guy this year, again, Jaden Wally's fine to go back to. Rara Thomas was somebody that you absolutely could take a shot in. One person, again, you can call me biased here, but Justin Robinson just transferred from Georgia over there. And this is a guy that I've paid attention to the last couple of years in Georgia practices. And I've heard great reports out of him pretty much my entire time there. So I'm interested to see if he can go over there and try and make a name for himself in that air raid offense over there. So that's another name to kind of write down. Former 4-star recruit.
Nice. Late declare or early declare?
Probably not.
Gosh, come on, man. You get these early declares in. Man.
You'd have to have a heck of a year this year in order to be early declare, because I think he just finished his second year. So.
Oh, got you. Yeah. All right. Well, I don't really have much else besides that, man. I'm sorry. I had a rough week. How's your week going?
No, my week's going pretty good, or good in a it's long in a good way, but pretty been extremely busy, but I'm going to bed satisfied with my work each night, kind of deal. So
let's ask Jared what he's planning for the future. There's plenty of content here.
Okay. I meant plan down, write down stuff. But yeah, you got any future projects coming up here for CFF or the whole team overall that you're allowed to release? Because I don't know what the founders.
In terms of allowed to release, I'll just be cryptic with something. I just got off a call with Jarek, who, if for those of you who don't know, Jarek is the wizard that we have around here at Campus to Canton, who does a lot of the website stuff and everything. And he and I had a good long conversation about some stuff that we're very excited to bring to you guys eventually, that I think you guys are going to be absolutely floored by. It's stuff that it's the kind of stuff that has never been available for the college players. And so I think people are going to be very ecstatic when they see it finally.
I got nothing out of that. Give me something. Again,
I don't know how much I'm allowed to reveal. Felix, you're right there. Can you tell? I
have no idea what you're talking about. I will say that it's clear that the founders group, we all have very defined roles now. Like Austin, Colin is behind the scenes making sure the website doesn't burn down to the ground. Austin is very much keeping the books clean and making sure we're, that all of our records are right. And he's also one of our writers. Me and Matthew are just talkers. We're just talkers, and obviously Chris and Jarek are the smart guys. So we have these, very clearly defined roles.
Okay. But so basically, if you want me to add a little something in here, it's going to be some stuff that is going to change the way you look at your drafts in college fantasy.
Okay.
So we're very, very excited for that. And then just general content in general. Again, we did the ranking some of this past weekend for pre-spring and everything. We plan on doing that again as we get closer to the fall and everything, especially right before fall camp start and everything. People really seem to enjoy that, so we're going to do it. We're going to keep going with Chasing the Natty. And then, again, we've already announced that we will have a CFF guide that we will be producing hopefully at the beginning of July. Nice. So you guys are absolutely going to love that. It's going to be a one-stop shop for all the information you could get about all 131 teams in college fantasy. You're absolutely going to dig it.
I can't wait to read about Kobe Hudson. Very excited about that.
You mean the wide receiver 3 at UCF this year?
The wide receiver 1. Those guys aren't special. Actually, I did one, not O'Keefe. I like the other one's Tave. I was looking at it for the draft. He's going to be one of my sleepers. Yeah, he's going to be one of my sleepers. Or he was on the list to be one of my sleepers.
I gotcha.
But he was gone. Yeah, I had a little project of my own too. No one's noticed it yet, but in the company Slack, I don't know. I got a vent. I got a little story to tell you. One time in basic training when I was what was I, 19? I was 19 years old. The top shooters from our platoon got optics and for basic training, just as a reward. They didn't really help out much. It was just, and it was extra weight, but it was cool that you had it. Like any other teenager, man, we're playing laser tag with our guns, which aren't loaded. There's no ammo in it. You can't shoot it. And this old dude rats me out. Only me, no, not the other 8 guys. He goes up, he's like, "Yeah, this soldier's pointing his weapon at other people," and so I get yelled at by 5 drill sergeants. It was the worst 2 hours of my life. Well, we both run an alpha group. Alpha group is just the fastest runners. So we're running. I see him in front of me. It's really dark out. It's 4 a.m. Yeah. And I trip him, and as I trip him, I push him into the fucking ditch. And he just gets cut up. He gets cut up by rocks and stuff like that. Of course, he comes at me to fight me then the next couple hours. And I forgot where I was going with this whole story. Oh, now I remember. I actually got written up and recommended to go to anger management, and I just couldn't believe that, which isn't me.
For pointing your weapon. And again, as a firearm, my family owns plenty of firearms. We're real big on gun safety and everything. So you should have gotten chewed out for pointing your weapon at other people, Absolutely. Even if it wasn't loaded. Absolutely. But anger management, were you angry when you were doing this?
No. Even when they were yelling at me, I wasn't angry. I was just kind of oh my God, this is actually happening. But I'd be getting mad sometimes. I really do. And so I don't want to unleash it on Twitter. You can't really read anyone's tone on Twitter. They're being sarcastic, being serious and stuff like that. So I made my own channel on the Slack. I wrote it down as Mike's Diary /venting.
Oh, is that where you just talk to yourself?
Yeah, it's my current project. My current project is releasing my heat into this secret Slack that I'm surprised Austin hasn't joined yet.
You see, when you make it bigger than any of us, Mike, you can just release that as your memoir.
Oh my god!
you got to plan long term for this kind of stuff. You got to sign the book deal at one point.
Yeah, honestly, this whole like Twitter journey has been like meeting a lot of my heroes along the way, which is true, and then being like severely disappointed. Like, no offense to anyone out there, but it's actually how it's been. I've been like really excited to meet a lot of people, and then once I do, I'm like, man, I don't know, man, you're not. Nothing's been special. But then C2C came along and they scooped me up. So who brought you to C2C?
Who brought me to C2C? Definitely Austin and Colin, because they invited me and Xavier onto the Campus Life podcast last year when we were first getting started. They actually that appearance helped us kind of launch.
When did they plan the CFF team? Because I didn't know. Obviously, I'm not in the founders chat.
So this has been something that's been discussed all the way back to the Fantasy Expo of last year. That's kind of where it was really like we had kind of hinted at it, and they kind of mentioned that like they wanted to talk about it a little bit. But like that's when we kind of decided that like that's when they kind of let me know, saying that this was going to be something that was going to happen, and that I was one of the people that they were going to consider to lead the team, which I was very flattered by, because again, I was very new to the space, at least the Twitter space and everything. So it's very, very cool for me. And then eventually we got around to the season ending, and we kind of just got the conversation rolling again. And they're just like, "Are we going to do this?" And I'm like, "Yeah, nice. Let's do this." So
that's cool. They always think pretty far ahead. So that's pretty tight.
Oh yeah. That's by the way, can I answer some things in the chat? Because like Luke wants to know where my DeAndre Swift jersey is. And
absolutely, go ahead.
Luke, it is still in his package because I still have not gotten a frame for it. So it is pristine and clean. It's still in his package. It will be going up in this office somewhere. And then Chris asked, how high do I have Hip and Hammer now? Sorry, Chris, I didn't move him up to wide receiver 13. He is still chilling at wide receiver 30 for me.
Who would you rather have Dynasty, just straight up Breece Hall or DeAndre Swift?
That's a tough one. I mean, obviously, landing spot for Breece is going to decide a lot of that.
Okay, you got to roll the dice now. You don't know the landing spot.
Got to roll the dice. I'm going to go Swift still. I'm going to go Swift still.
Yeah, security.
Plenty of opportunity there. So
makes sense.
Plus, he's my boy. Again, I have a signed jersey from him. So
right.
Am I supposed to doubt him? No.
I'm like the opposite. So I graduated from Kentucky, and so every time I see a Kentucky player, I just assume they're terrible. Like I'm just like, they're terrible. They're from my school. I know they're terrible.
Hey, Chris Rodriguez is going to be good in the draft next year. Maybe. I don't know.
That class is too thick because I liked him this year. I mean, this year's class is like nothing special. I mean, it's a lot of backups. And you got like 3 guys you think can be starters. Yeah. And then in the next year's class, it's like you got like 6 or 7 instant like RB2s, RB1s like right away. Mm-hmm. So I like Chris Rod. He had a huge fumbling issue this year. I don't know. I think his door is closed. I really do. I think him not coming out this year closed the door of him being like a big deal. I
think that's fair. Yeah. I definitely think it's fair. I'm cool with it because CFF, we were losing like all of our running backs this year.
Right.
I even vented about it on Twitter at one point where I'm just like, because like BJ Baylor out of Oregon State declared for the draft. I'm like, why? Nobody knows who you are now because like he wasn't even invited to the combine. I'm like, was it really the smart decision to go to the draft right now? Because nobody knows who you are.
Bro, that's terrible. I didn't. Let me just ask you this: How I'm stuttering over here. How do you decide who's going to the draft? Who decides that?
I mean, the players decide that at the end of the day, but a lot of times they're kind of influenced by agents that they start talking to, and they kind of pump them. They kind of pump them up a little bit and saying, "Hey, like, you know, if you test well and everything, like you have the measurables to be a guy that could sneak into the not first round, but you could be like, you think you're undrafted right now, but really like you're somebody that NFL teams have their eye on and stuff like that." A lot of these players kind of get a little swindled sometimes by some of these agents.
Right. Well, I mean, don't teams have to give them the invite? Don't teams have to request to see somebody and then they get the invite through like some committee? Isn't that how it goes? I'm not sure. I'm asking.
I mean, at the end of the day, again, the players are the ones that make that decision for themselves. Usually it is kind of like a lot of times they are given like draft grades right before they make that decision for the draft. So like going back to Georgia, like I'm pretty familiar with the fact that like most of the Georgia players that declared for the draft this year, a lot of them did so on the basis of how well they were being graded out. I know at least one player that decided to come back this year, even though he was planning on going to the draft this year because he got a grade back that said, hey, you're not quite as like, I think he wanted to be like a second rounder. And I just know that whatever grade he got back was below that. So,
okay. Yeah. I thought it was just my understanding. I think I read this somewhere was that teams have to like request to see somebody and then they get the draft invite. They can declare for the draft. I'm talking about the combine. Did I say the draft?
Yeah, you're talking about. That's why I was getting confused. I'm like, I don't think anybody has to be invited to the draft.
I meant the combine. See, I gotta go bed now again on the Slack and cool down.
No, yeah, the NFL invites you to the combine.
Yeah,
and
but
so
the teams have to request to see you though, right?
Yes.
All right, cool.
Yes,
that's what I was.
It's very disappointing when you declare early for the draft and then you're not even invited to the combine. So players like BJ Baylor and Devin Tompkins, what are y'all doing?
Yeah, and then you can't go back, right? Once you declare.
Yeah, you cannot go back. That's actually something I've started to see people start advocating for is like player like David Ojabo tore his Achilles at his pro day and everything. And people are starting to say like, oh, maybe there should be an option for some of these guys. Like if they don't get invited to the combine and stuff like that, they should have like a grace period to make that decision to return. It's only a bigger headache for us for CFF purposes because like we like to know at the draft deadline of like, all right, who's leaving, who's staying behind for another year. But like, on a player level, I get it. It's like players make mistakes. Player goes undrafted and everything. Again, maybe that's too late for it, but it's like, they don't get even invited to the combine. You're probably not going to get drafted. So it's like, maybe let them have that decision to be like, all right, I've made a mistake. I should come back for another year.
Yeah, I mean, every year there's guys on like Mel Kiper's list. It's on the bottom of the screen, and it has like a 3rd round grade, and you're like the back of day 3, and they're still available. Exactly. There's always a few, man. There's always a few. That's cool. Yeah, I just learned that recently. I thought that was pretty cool to realize that because people are like, my sleeper this year is Jared Stearns, and I'm like, nobody wanted him at the combine, man. So I don't really think he's going to be a hit.
Yeah.
So.
Again, sometimes you do get receivers that benefit directly from the systems that they're in, and NFL teams kind of recognize that. And again, I think Jared Stern's a good college receiver, but again, there's a reason why he was only playing at Western Kentucky.
Yeah, I mean, the whole G5 thing. I think,
it's not even G5. Like CUSA is a like almost like a bottom tier of G5. Like it's the transition conference as we're really seeing right now, where like a lot of the FCS teams that are moving up are going to Conference USA, and some of the teams that feel like, all right, we're more established now, we're going to move off to a different conference. So like a lot of them are moving to the Sun Belt. I know Western Kentucky tried to move to the MAC. So
they're trying to move up. I think the AAC is the best one.
Oh, out of the group of 5, clearly. AAC and then Mountain West is probably a decent second, but like there is like those two, and then you have, I'd say Sun Belt is like its own tier, and then the MAC and the CUSA are at the bottom. But don't take that as hate for the MAC. I love the MAC. Tuesday football is never a bad thing.
Yeah, it'll never fly. But what I like to see is if like the bottom team of like the SEC, they have to drop down to like the big, the Big Ten or something like that. And then the AAC, vice versa.
That's something Xavier and I really discussed at one point. Where like, again, everybody talks about like, oh, there's no parity in college football and everything. We don't reward teams that do well in their lower conference. I'm like, a regulation style of conferences wouldn't be a terrible idea. Like, team up some of these Group of 5 and Power 5 conferences together. Have the top team from the Sun Belt go to the SEC. Have the top team from the MAC go to the Big Ten. I mean, again, like, or Mountain West, go to Pac-12. Bottom team from the Pac-12, go to the Mountain West.
Yeah.
Punish teams for not doing well and promote teams that are doing well. Let teams build on momentum year after year. I see no problem with that whatsoever.
And then what I want to see the worst NFL team play the national champion from the college side. I just want to see it. I just want to know.
People want to see it, but let's be real. The worst NFL team's still probably going to smash the best college team.
They should, but if they don't, everyone's fired. The whole place. This is the whole room. Everyone's gone.
That would be quite the TV special. If they lose this game, they all lose their jobs, including the players.
Yeah, they're out. Welcome back, Matt. Were you putting down the kids, as you say?
Yes, sir.
Oh, man. Well, I also wanted to. I'm filibustering. I've got to think of something real quick. Man, So I do want to give a little shout out to Zach Xander. He brought me onto his podcast. He's a listener of this podcast. I had a good time with Zach Xander, so I just want to say thank you for bringing me on out there. This dude, by the way, Zach Xander, is so gun ho about C2C having their own platform for like our fantasy stuff, which is like only 24 dudes, and I'm like, all right, man, we gotta sell a lot more subscriptions for that.
Well, and people don't realize how much that would cost. Like that, like the amount of money just to get the data in order to have your own fantasy platform is a lot more than people expect. Like it's several $1,000s a year.
Yeah,
millions. No, it's millions.
Millions. Oh,
I think Sleeper to create their thing, it was like tens of millions of dollars to create what they did, and that's just NFL.
I get data is a commodity, but like that is so ridiculous.
I mean, I feel like computer skills are obviously probably the number one growing thing right now. I feel like it gets 100%. Cheaper as time goes on, you know? Like soon we'll see 5-year-olds making their own fancy platform in like, you know, the year 23,000, you know?
I mean, it'll be my kid that does it, so.
Yeah. One of my new soldiers rolled up in a fucking Tesla, and I'm like, you know, he's like younger ranked than me, and I'm like, dude, this kid has way more money than I do. And I'm like supposed to be his boss. And then he like shows up, he's like, yeah, I write like Linux for Lockheed Martin. And I'm like, okay, man.
I'm getting to the age where like it's weird for me to be working, or like it's not weird, but like I'm technically the boss of people who are older than me, which is kind of a weird thing. And it's not just here at CDC. Like I'm a TA like at the University of Georgia. So like I help teach a civil engineering class over there. And like one of my students was just like, he's like, yeah, I'm like he's like, I just turned 26 last week. I'm like 20. I'm teaching you, and I'm 4 years younger than you. It's getting to be a weird feeling.
Yeah. My puppy just joined me.
Aw, you got a puppy?
Yeah, he's a little butthole sometimes, but he's cute.
Same with my cat. I'm taking care of my older sister's cat right now, so she is. She's actually been very quiet tonight. She's become famous for interrupting me in my podcast these past.
Yeah, every time you talk running backs, right?
Yeah, she was actually pretty tame during the running back summit this past week, but she did make herself known. So maybe we need to start talking more DeAndre Swift, and maybe she'll come over here and start making her thoughts known. Yeah,
actually, I do want to know your thoughts on what they were talking about on the show with Sean Tucker. If Sean Tucker was in this class, just in this current class, would he be the RB2 in this class?
No.
Okay.
I like Sean Tucker. I like him as a fantasy player, or I like him as a college player and everything. He is a great receiving back. I don't think that part of him has been truly unlocked yet, but I don't get the idea that he is a NFL ready back. I'm not there with him personally.
I like him a lot. I think he's the RB2 in this class personally, but I'm not ready to die on that hill yet either. So I'm okay. I'm okay with whoever wants to say what about it. So, man, yeah, that was. I was
there's definitely some decisions made on the pod when it came to like the this or that segment in terms of like who they were picking. Like Matt, I'm sorry, man. Like I'm a college guy and everything, but like Jackson Dart over Malik Willis, I can't say I follow the logic on that one.
I don't think Malik Willis is a good NFL quarterback. I got you, man. Don't worry about it. Yeah,
here's the thing. I don't either. But also, like, he is going to be probably the first quarterback off the board this year, and he's a dual threat guy. He's going to provide some level of value.
But you have to be a good quarterback to sustain that value. If Jackson Dart does what I'm projecting him to do, which I'm not afraid to project on players, the same thing I get all that crap for Quinn Ewers, just like Austin is. Like, I'm fine projecting what I think this player is going to be. If I expect Jackson Dart to be the quarterback I think he's going to be, he has a future in the NFL much longer than Malik Willis is, so I'm willing to take that bet.
See, again, and I don't blame you for that, because, again, I agree with you. If he reaches his ceiling, yeah, I think Jackson Dart's going to be a much better quarterback. But, again, how likely is that ceiling? We don't know that yet.
I don't think he has to reach the ceiling. I think he could fall down on the first floor and still be better than what Malik Willis is.
Yeah, I'm not there on the other side.
Malik Willis has a lot more to fix than people give him credit for, because he makes a couple flashy throws on the highlights and he can run. Everybody says because he can run, he's going to be this great NFL quarterback. Not everybody's Lamar Jackson, who can use their legs for years to then build up, and he's still not even that great of a passer. I just think Malik Willis is getting overrated.
Let me be very clear. I also agree with you that he is overrated. I do. I think it is. I think it was crazy when people started putting him as like the clear number one quarterback in this class, in a class where you have Matt Corral, where you have Sam Howell. People just completely forgotten about this year. I that's one thing I don't understand. I agree with you. He is being overrated, but that doesn't change the fact that some NFL team is going to fall in love with him. They're going to try him out for at least several years. If he works, he's going to have a pretty good future as far as I'm concerned.
Yeah, but I feel like
if Josh Rosen was taken 10 overall, played a year.
I liked him a lot. I liked him a lot. But anyway, my thing though is that it's like he hasn't thrown for 3,000 yards. He hasn't had a 65 over 65% completion rate, and he's playing like the bottom of the barrel teams in the FBS, and he's finding success against those guys. Every time he plays anyone a little better than that, he like sucks. And if he goes to an NFL team, like let's say he went where Trey Lance went last year, and he had to play behind Jimmy G, I don't think San Francisco would be shopping out Jimmy G if they still had Malik Willis on their roster. Like I think they would want that security blanket. I think people are just. They're focused on the unicorns, like Josh Allen's comeback year. And now all of a sudden every team's like, yeah, we'll keep Drew Lock. He's going to be the guy. And then they're like, oh, we'll keep Daniel Jones. Like not everybody has that bounce back year the way Josh Allen did. Not everyone's going to have that rushing upside that Lamar Jackson has. Like those guys are special.
Like I agree that you're getting the value. If he does go 2 overall to Detroit, like you could still probably move him a year from now even if he does nothing without losing really any value. But my point has always been like, if Dart does even 80% of what I think he can do, he'll be successful in the NFL because he's got the arm and he's a passer. Doesn't matter that he's got enough mobility. He's not Malik Willis, but he's got enough. Like everybody talks about how great of a rusher Malik Willis is, but I like Sam Howell. I'm with you. Sam Howell graded out as my second QB in this class, barely behind Corral, literally by 0.1. He graded behind Matt Corral for me. So Sam Howell's my QB too. And I love Sam Howell. He's not that dynamic of an athlete, and he almost put up as many rushing yards as Malik Willis did this year. Like that, Malik Willis is not Lamar Jackson. I think that's the issue I have. Is a lot of this draft community goes and I'm not saying that everybody looks at the highlights, and I know you don't. You watch it. You've seen him play. Yeah. Like a lot of the NFL community, I think, are the dynasty guys. Like, oh, they put on his highlights and say, oh, look, he ran around for a minute behind the line of scrimmage and then threw a play down the field. He's the next Lamar Jackson. Like, no, he's not. Like, if you watch Lamar at Louisville, they miss all the times he does that, and then he throws it 50 yards down the field and misses his target by about 10 yards. Exactly. Or he throws it into triple coverage across his body. Like Lamar Jackson, when you watch what he did at Louisville, it is a million times different rushing wise than what you're seeing Malik Willis do at Liberty. So for me, I think he's getting overvalued. Like, again, I'm willing to bet on Dart because I feel like even if I miss, I'm not missing out on Willis because I think he's going to be a miss. So I'd rather take a guy on Dart that I think has higher upside. And if it doesn't work out, it doesn't work out. Like at the end of the day, I think both are going to, if he doesn't work out, I truly believe Willis won't. So at the end of the day, it's a net zero for me. Like I didn't win on Dart, but you didn't win on Malik Willis. So that's kind of the way I look at it.
I could definitely see that.
I just want to throw this in too. If you're looking at the lens of just who has guaranteed draft capital, I can understand the Malik Willis part. He is going to get that guaranteed draft capital, and we don't know Jackson Dart. But so if that's people's argument, like I get it. So
that's pretty much where I'm kind of coming from, especially because like in some ways we kind of overestimate our ability to project 3-4 years down the line. And so again, I like Dart. I do. I'm really excited to see what he does at Ole Miss this year. In fact, I think him and Trigg are going to be one of the best stacks that you could have for your CFF teams that people aren't really looking at right now. But in terms of what I think he'll do in the NFL, I am not going to pretend that I am somebody who can project 2 years down the line as to whether he'll be a first-round guy or not.
Yeah. All right, guys, this is going to be all the time we have for the after show. Yes, I finally get to end it on my own terms for once. Suck it. All right. Yeah, that's going to